Hello everybody, let's do an end of day BTC futures. So let it load and I'll show you. Yesterday I said there's going to be a pump for Ethereum to touch. You can see here, let's quickly see Ethereum 1 hour chart. I was telling you this gap here, this was created uh, a gap up uh, on a Ethereum chart. We had a gap up, okay? And Ethereum had to come down to fix this gap or fill this gap. Actually, let me see where this was. Uh, okay, we had a gap down on this day. Let me hide this. This is a bit confusing. Okay, here you go. All right. So what happened on this day, Friday or Monday? We had a gap down. So there was a gap here. All right. There was a gap created here. And I was telling everybody that there's a gap here, so we most likely will be filling this gap. So what happened? Yesterday we had a gap, not a gap up. We came all the way down up to fill this gap. So this gap was filled. And what they did, futures open on Wednesday, they gapped up again. And then this gap is now closed fully now. So look, they gapped up and they came back to fill this gap. So that's why it's very important to do analysis based on gap so that you're on the right track. This is a divergent high here. So if I draw an arrow on RSI, we're making a new high on lower momentum. This is making lower high and price is making higher high. If I show you live Ethereum chart, so you can see same thing here. First of all, if I zoom out, we're into massive resistance area. This was support here. Multiple times it came as a support. If I extend this, you can easily see this was support here, support, 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 broke down, and now we're in massive resistance area. All right. So again, we made a new high this morning on a divergent. That was a divergent high. Lower momentum on RSI. RSI making lower high, price making higher high. Now we're gonna get a dump here. I don't know when, but most likely maybe in January. So it can come here. Two green lines are the gaps to fill. So 1850, 1614, 1428. So it is quite possible we can get all the way down here around 1800s to fill this gap, and that's where this major support is also lying. If I draw a rectangle here just as a support area, you can see what I mean. And if I make this green, so you can highlight this as a support. So this is where I'm thinking Ethereum can go. All right. Bitcoin. So similar story, Bitcoin on 1 hour chart, you can see actually we had a gap again, another gap is created, so which is good news for the bulls. So I'm going to mark top gaps with yellow. You can see gap down here on Thursday midnight and another gap here. If I zoom out, this gap here, this happened on this day 10th of December, right? So two gaps to the upside if I go to daily chart, but multiple gaps to the downside. So I think it's possible we can go up, fill these two gaps first, then come down, or we can come directly down, fill this gap, and then go up. Okay, but this is my preference. So I think Bitcoin can still pump from here, make a new high at minimum around 40, 45K around-ish, or no, previous highs around 45, 345, somewhere around there. And even if it makes a new high, it's going to be a divergent high. Similar story to Ethereum. So you can see here RSI going lower high, prices going higher high. This high was made here on 8th of December. That was a divergent high, and also I have a red sell signal here. All right. So just be a bit careful on crypto. Looks like it's just making a topping process, a pump, and followed by a dump in January. On Bitcoin and Ethereum also, it can still go a little bit higher, but eventually looking for this major support in 1850 as a target. And it, for Bitcoin, first target would be 39,420. And if we are here, then we'll talk about if it's going to go to lower target. All these green dots are the lines to fill, gap fills at a later date. All right, guys, so that's it for crypto. I'm going to move to traditional market. VIX now, after it was green Pretty much S&P 500, triple Qs was red, but S&P 500 was green. So there's a bit of conflict, but you can see VIX can now, and it's ready to shoot up, all right? And if VIX will go higher, that means S&P 500, it's inversely correlated to S&P 500, that could go lower. But for now, it's just trying its best to hold a trend, which is good news. If I draw a line from here, uh, let's see if that's the right line, or maybe I need to adjust this slightly here. If I draw something like this, it's gonna come and probably gonna uh, dump later on. All right, so this is what I'm expecting. A little bit higher, go higher here, back test this, and then probably gonna come down and fill this gap around 455. Triple Q, same thing, looking for this to top out and then come down, fill this gap around 385. That's what I'm looking for. Crude oil, not a good scenario here on crude oil. Let me turn on EMA lines. It's below all EMA lines, but this could still be a high low before it can go high. On a smaller time frame, the momentum has shifted to opposite direction. You can see it was higher high, higher lows before. Now it's going down, so it's just made a lower high. So it's possible we can from here try to make a higher high, lower high, and then still go lower. Regardless, we can still expect a pump very soon, and that can happen as soon as tomorrow. All right. And this is where I was expecting a rejection. Massive resistance area got rejected, but crude oil really needs to uh, pull up his socks now. All right, in order to be bullish, I really want crude oil to get ready now for the pump and then blast off this resistance. Okay, and that's why CNQ now. If I go to 1 hour chart, there was a gap here, and this gap was created third Tuesday, gap up. It had to come down to fill this gap totally. Okay, so that's what happened, and today it gapped down and kept selling till the end of the day. All right, so now there's a gap one here, another gap here, and if I go to daily chart, it's in the middle of both gaps, so I don't know what's going to fill. My preference is to fill this gap first before it goes down. XM, same thing. Uh, Maybe it wants to fill this gap around 99 bucks. We'll see if it comes there. That's going to be a good area to buy. Um, Gold, looking for lower high, higher high, higher low. So you can see one high, higher low, higher high, higher low, and now I think it's gonna probably make a little bit of downside to get energy before it can break this previous high. All right. Silver, same thing in the support area. This is where you want to buy silver in the support area. Natural gas, massive pump today, but I'm still expecting it to dry down and looking for a new low here. And when that happens, looking for positive momentum on RSI. That's gonna give me an early indication of a buying possibility. Dollar holding nicely in the buy in the support area. So if dollar now it can bounce back down and top out here and then come down and then bounce. Hang Seng Index holding nicely, finding some resistance here, massive pump higher, and right in the resistance area. So it really needs to now break this resistance to be bullish again. Commodities, copper by the dip, palladium by the dip, soybeans in the buy area, wheat looking for a little bit of pullback to buy, corn struggling, still struggling. Let's see if Tesla, kind of an engulfing candle. These candle took care of last two candles, so almost 3% down. It can come back for a back test of this trend line, so be mindful of that. If that happens, that's your ideal area to buy. There are two gaps for downside, 239 and 224. It can come all the way down to fill this gap, the second gap, before it can go higher. That's quite possible, so be mindful of that. Apple holding above 20 EMA, this white line, nicely. So as long as it's holding, it can bounce from here. Netflix also just at the resistance area, target is 519. Microsoft just consolidating, uh, just flagging a bit. There's a gap at the downside, so it can come down. It's possible, so remember that. Google a little bit weaker. Now there's a gap around 140. Maybe it wants to fill that gap. Second gap around 138. Meta, let's go to 1 hour chart. Meta did fill this gap. You can see how nicely gaps are filled. That's why we create this. And now the other target is 362. Amazon. Let me go to daily. Yeah, now it's flagging. So the next target is here, higher around 163. And Snowflake's higher, just keeps going higher. Nvidia, let's go to 1 hour chart. No gaps are filled. Gap is down, gap is up, so it's in the middle. Let's see which one is going to be filled first. AMD also continue moving up. No divergence, which is good news, but very, very overbought short term. So be very careful here. Dow Jones looks like it could be forming a topping process, but massive bull trend. Looks like a good pullback is required, and that will be healthy. Russell 2000 also looking for a pullback. A little bit of pullback from here. First gap here, second gap there. So looking for that before we can go too higher. Newmont Minor gap fill. Next target is this gap around 41.52. Gold miners, massive downside move. Delete this gap here. Uh, Looks like it wants to fill this gap before it can go higher. And sector wise, XLK. Oh, did it fill this gap? So looking for a pump from here to reach this 90.18. XLV holding this trend line, so everything is good as long as it's holding this trend line. XLU broke below this. I can do something like this. Okay, so we're gonna create another trend line for XLU. Industrial sector just going straight up. Here to buy. Shopify keep going higher, trying its best, but remember the 73 around 74 bucks is the massive gap to fill. So be mindful of that. All right, I think that's about it. Let's see if there is anybody. So people have few questions. There you go. So we are looking for a dump on Bitcoin. You saved my ass a couple of months ago when it comes to Bitcoin. I fucking listen to you. Thank you, Jeremy. Good to hear. You should check out a VTX.